Welcome to Hashknife Hangouts. I'm Calen. This is Greg. That's my dad, Brandon. That's Bert. And in the corner hidden is my mother. If you haven't followed us already, like us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and follow us on Rumble. That was Mom's Moscow Mule, the Huckleberry Moscow Mule. And that's Red Robin. Anyway, today we're going to talk about after branding. Last night we talked about before branding, and we went into a lot of different subjects, which lasted an hour and a half. And so that'll probably come out as 2 episodes. So this will be our 3rd, hopefully. Today we actually got to do the branding process. We explained it to Greg and Bert, who have never experienced it before, and now they've experienced it. And
hopefully we didn't steer them wrong.
Yeah, scar them for life.
Yeah.
I guess
I got it. You and I were the only ones who got it.
We'll stick with the normal script. I'll hand it to Dad first. What were your kind of initial thoughts and whatnot?
Well, it's kind of funny because it started out the same as the day before. We gathered.
Yeah.
And
they were pros at that.
Yeah. So wasn't much different, right? And then we got into the corrals and the gates closed, and then everything changed. We were out of the vehicle, went side by side. We were on the horses and starting to move cattle on foot where you're up close and personal.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of watching, and it was like, they'd done it before.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was no fear, no hesitation.
They haven't gotten kicked yet. That's why.
Well, that's true. You haven't been taken by a cow.
Only 22 a year.
Only 22.
Yeah, 22 people a
Card
year
up
get
and
killed.
buff.
That's all. So it was interesting to watch that, and then watching you guys helping us sort.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I was on the gate.
I did most of the cussing.
You did all the cussing.
Oh God,
You were having a moment.
Mom
A
had
couple of them.
Mom had 2 or 3 meltdowns.
She did. It's like,
For
and
realsies.
then she always blames me when we're handling cattle that I'm the
That
one.
gate's backwards.
No, the
I
gate-
can't read the stupid tags and move the gate.
This is why I drink right here.
You don't have to. You just have to let a few through at a time. So the horse.
Yeah.
Anyhow, no, you guys did great. We did this when it was just us,
Mhm.
so it
We've
makes
done
a
it with
big
3.
difference.
Yeah.
Well, Lisa and I have actually sorted
With
just the
just
2 of us, and it goes okay. But that 3rd and 4th person really makes it go
It's
a lot
huge,
quicker.
huge.
So,
I
and
can't
too many
imagine that
people
would-
is a problem.
Yeah, I can't imagine that with just 2 people.
Yeah.
I know.
Just go slower.
Well, and for example, I remember in college, I think it was the last year I did it. Braden and I ran from Bozeman to here, so that's 2 hours, 15 minutes. We woke up early, about 4 o'clock. Ran to Starbucks real quick, grabbed a brew, and went on the road. And we got here, and Mom and Dad had sorted already by the time we arrived, which was about 6, 7 o'clock, somewhere in there. And then it was you, me, Mom, Braden, and I think probably the Skogas family. And that was
Mm-hmm.
that. Other than that, that's probably the 2nd smallest crew we've ever had.
Yeah.
And so we had Brad, Becky, Brady, and Austin, because Tony's wasn't in the picture yet. So I mean, you're looking at an 8-man crew doing all that stuff that we did today, with actually more cows than what we did.
Yeah. So
That's
I guess I'd have to say,
Doable.
what did you guys think? Tell us about it.
that's hard work. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. And when you talked about, not being afraid, and I was being cautious
Mhm.
when we were doing the sorting, walking the heifers around, trying to sort. And when they weren't moving, and I got the backside of them, and I'm like, I can't get that close. If I piss one of them off, they're gonna kick. So I was cautious of that. So
Yeah. And they're faster and more athletic than you realize.
yeah,
You would think something that's built like that couldn't do the things they can, but I've watched a cow stand at a fence and hurdle it just right up and over. And if you look at that cow and you go, that doesn't work. That doesn't compute.
yeah,
But they're very athletic.
yeah. It's
I mean, you were in the pen and you and Lisa and Connie
Right.
were
Yeah.
in there wrangling, and I was by the
The calves were going where they shouldn't have been, and then the cows were going.
Mm.
where they
yes.
shouldn't. That's why I
yes.
had my meltdown.
The
Yes.
complication too, if anybody doesn't understand, hopefully the video I described it well enough, but we did four sorts at once. So we had
Mhm.
calves going one way, which we had a half fence so the calves could go underneath. We had cows that went down the alley, and half of them went one direction at the end, and half of them went the other direction at the end. And then the fourth group was heifers and a couple butcher steers that were to remain behind. So you had 4 total locations where they're supposed to go. And that's the hard part, is instead of sorting by
Just-
one location at a time, like,
Just
okay,
cows or calves.
let's
that'd
get
be
rid of all the
easy.
calves first, then let's do all these cows, then all these cows. We were doing 4 at once, which I don't know. The only way to really determine what's more economical is to do both versions at the same time with the same cows, but that's never going to happen.
Well,
So
it is more efficient because you're moving each cow once
Mhm.
yeah,
instead of making a sort and then going back down or sorting them back the other direction. So you are saving time. It seems like it's going a little slower because you're segregating,
watch
but
them
it's
carefully.
when it's done, it's done. It only took us just right at about just under 30 minutes total from the time we got them in
And
the
that's
corral.
good. I mean,
until we were
that
completely
truly is
sorted.
very good.
Yeah, it wasn't bad at all.
30
No, no.
minutes, a little bit of trauma, and a whole lot of moms cussing. So
Oh,
it's
it
okay.
wasn't that bad.
I don't
You're
know, I'm
such a
still- I've
drama
been-
king.
It's taken a half dozen beers to get over it today.
Is that right? You poor thing. I feel so badly for you.
But
Yeah.
you also saw too, towards the end, we had a couple calves left. And what did I do? I said, shut the gate. We're getting calves through. Because I saw there was
Right.
2 calves left. I said, we're pushing the calves out because that takes out a whole nother factor.
Yeah.
And once they got through, we shut the gate and that completely closed it off. And then we had, I think, probably 4 or 5 other cows left to pull out of that herd. And then eventually we only had 2 and they were being real. No, it was one.
One.
Yeah.
136.
Just being a poop. head
Man,
today.
she was being
wanted to
rough
do
all day.
everything you didn't want her
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
do.
So we
she
pushed-
was a hard one.
So we did what Dad said. He's like, all right, that's it. We'll shut the gates, push the whole herd up the chute, and we'll do a cutback. So we let
It's only a dozen, 12, 14. heads.
Yeah. But
And
we-
it's easier to do that when you get that to
Right.
that number.
right, but we let all the heifers and that one cow, the heifers, the one cow, and the 2 butcher steers, and they started working their way back, and that one cow kind of
Stayed.
filtered her way towards
Where
the
she
end,
needed
and
to
then
be.
once she was at the end, I was able to use the horse to push her out.
Yeah.
So, and my brother's dog is in the background messing with all sorts of stuff, but that's okay. Anyway, we'll kind of start with what was supposed to happen, what did happen, and kind of what you guys thought. What was supposed to happen is gather, sort, do the branding and such, and then the festivities immediately thereafter. How'd you guys kind of think about how it went and what the whole process, starting from when we left to go get the cows and bringing them in to all the way to the end when we got to have some gumbo and some beer?
It was amazing. It was wonderful.
I thought it controlled chaos is what it was.
That's
really.
exactly right.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a good one. That's a good way to put it.
It worked the way, I think the way it was supposed to. Now, I've never done this before. You're really the only one. You all here are really the only ones that could say whether it worked like it was supposed to. But it went relatively smoothly. Everyone was
yeah.
listening to one person, and and I thought it went well. But again, I don't have anything to compare it to.
Mhm.
You all know how it's supposed
Yeah.
to
And
go.
we had a couple of novice people in there that
Mhm.
were working really, really well and jumped
Yeah.
right in.
Yeah.
And I think for the most part, and I'm going to put myself in that category because you were actually working the gate, the drop down, whatever that's
Oh,
called.
the kind of it was a tailgate to keep the calves from
Yeah,
going
to let
back
'em
up
in
the
and-
chute if they backed up.
So
back
he
up.
was physically doing
And
the
that's,
work.
that's important because otherwise
Well,
they're,
I was telling Greg is
over.
like some people they get ahead of themselves, and I appreciate the initiative to try and help us out to get the next calf in as soon as they can, but they'll open that back gate
a little too
in
soon.
hopes of that next calf will just fill in. And a lot of the times you saw when they were on the table, as soon as they get released, they try and back up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pulling that early, they start going back up the chute, and it's a whole nother problem. You're trying to get two calves pushed at the same time, and it's
Yeah, let
the,
one
the
go and catch
discipline
the
to
other.
let them get out first and
Yes.
then release. Oh, it was
Very
spot
good.
on.
No, I
Right.
made that. Yeah, I made sure that you get, that's the job you guys gave me. And that's why I made sure everybody
Yeah.
was ready before I let the next one in.
Well, I mean, I think that's a good example of what we talked about last night is even the small jobs, even though they may be minuscule and not very important to the outside focus, it makes a big difference in the whole
Right.
operation because that could hold us up for a whole
But
nother
the
5
speed,
minutes.
if you held up, because you were waiting 15, 20 seconds, 30 seconds.
And then multiply
then-
it by many.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
And time is of the essence,
Especially
especially the
today.
weather we had.
Yeah, today especially.
And
It
then-
We
was
got very
like
lucky.
clockwork.
Yeah.
As soon as we were finished, it started sprinkling a
Right.
bit.
The other thing I noticed was the ones that we had problems when they back up in the chute
Yeah.
and they didn't want to go out, we had a hard time getting them out
Mhm.
because they
Yeah.
didn't want. So after a while, when I went to the other side
Mhm.
to help hold the cows when you guys
Mhm.
were branding, I opened up one of the doors and I put my foot on the butt
Yeah.
on their hindquarters. And then, your brother released them and they went out much easier. We didn't have many backup.
Just
after
a
One-
that.
little pressure.
one of the-
to
and-
I was pushing
Yeah.
pretty hard just to make sure they wouldn't back
Yeah.
up.
Right.
One of the biggest deals was, and you probably experienced this, is about your proximity to the cow and how they respond to you. I mean, they've got a bubble of influence, or you do over them. And Bert and I were doing this at the end of the alley. And I was explaining how you can move them, you can influence their movement, or you can, retard it or turn them. I mean, you can do a lot just by where you stand, how you stand. And a lot of the reason why we had some issues is we had some people
In the front.
in the front and they
Yeah.
were holding the
Too
gate
close
going,
to
and they
the
were a little
front.
bit too close. And it's like, okay, but we have so many people that was a management thing. It's like, okay, I chose, that's not a hill to die on. We'll just work through it.
Mhm.
If there was a lot less of us, that person would have stepped to the side.
Mhm.
The calf would have not seen anybody and not tried to,
Been
because they're
more-
coming
Their
into pressure.
tendency would be
right?
to
Right.
So that
escape.
was
Right.
the issue there. But
And that's kind of what I thought. I'm like, why is she standing there in the
Yeah,
front?
yeah.
But
And
Now,
we
I
all
mean-
wanted to get a shot.
Yeah.
Right, right.
But
So-
even, I mean, not to rag on mom a little bit, but it's also a process too, right? Like when we're doing the sorting, it was a lot of times she would let cows go through and then just assume I had them and my horse wasn't
Right.
behind them. It's like, I need you to close the gate.
Well,
I don't want.
because they were running and I was
Yeah.
like, okay, they're through and they looked like they were still moving. And then I'd turn around, it was like, they
Yeah.
stopped.
So it's almost like a
Well, but
handoff,
you
like,
also-
have to have
Because
a
I was also
visual.
looking
You have to
the
have a
other
visual
direction.
handoff. Like, okay, now it's
Right.
your cow.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
you,
And then
but you can also
Right.
see where you could push them up, start them up the chute after you've got them out of there, and you turn to open the gate and you go, oh, here I can make another good cut.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So you're hurrying to get the gate open and then
Well,
they're gonna
yeah,
come back.
you're
So
trying to get more cows, but.
you're
stop
trying to
the
be more
calves.
efficient
Yeah.
and it
Sometimes didn't
backfires
work.
and goes backwards.
And
Yeah.
Calen just likes to be bossy for me because, it's so rare that he gets the opportunity. but-
Listen, I'm on the horse. I'm the boss man. All right. And then
Oh, okay.
how was it when you started meeting people? Because you guys are here. You got to help us with the sorting process, and thankfully we got that done before everybody showed up. Literally, the first person, Thor, he showed up, I think 5 minutes after we were done.
Yeah,
And he rolls up. He's like, "Hey, buddy." I'm like, "Hey, nice to see you. We just finished up." So that was the first person. How was it like meeting everybody else? Because you're kind of the outsiders here. A lot of
They
everybody
were-
else has seen each other
Yes.
before.
It
They
was
were
great.
wonderful. They
Yeah.
were wonderful. We introduced ourselves. And they were very receptive. Just really everyone we met. I kind of missed out at the end because I thought I was gonna, the batteries were taken out of me. And
I didn't know it was legal to stop in the middle of a branding and take a nap.
Well, if you talk to Bert Delasantos, it sure is.
I just, all I wanted
it
was,
wasn't
it
the
wasn't-
branding,
it
it
wasn't-
was dinner.
It was
Oh,
Yeah.
after dinner.
no, I
Yeah.
was,
It was, yeah.
but.
But you were
oh,
running down
I ju-
anyway.
It was
I
after
was
the gumbo.
running down and I actually ate standing because I knew that if I
If
was
you
gonna,
sat down, it was gonna
yeah,
be.
my
the-
Yeah.
eyes were already getting
Oh,
glossy
no.
and I just, I said to myself, okay, 15 minutes, just 15 minutes. That's all I need. And you just kind of recharge and you go back at it. No, 2 hours later, where is everybody? Well, they're gone. Oh, I wanted to say goodbye to some
That's
people that were
fun.
really sweet,
That's all
but
right. Then
it was
the-
good.
But it was fun.
It
once
was fun.
once everybody, so how'd it go? Because boss man here telling everybody what to do.
Gotta be careful with him.
I'm actually trying to be serious.
Oh, sorry.
Well, he gave good instructions, but
Okay.
then
He did.
but I did
Quiet-
see
quiet,
him.
you were in the
off
kitchen.
to the side and let everything happen. He
Kind
kind
of.
of
Yeah.
he kind
Yeah,
of
he kinda
oversee.
did.
He kind of oversaw things. He
Mhm.
stepped in a few times.
Which, to give the viewer perspective, you probably branded what, 3 or 4 calves,
Maybe that many. I don't know.
and then
But yeah, maybe.
and then
You
I
did.
was doing film. I had a buddy, one of my best friends. I had both my best friends from high school still here. One came with his wife. The other came. He'd never been to the ranch before, which was surprising.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
threw that on me like last couple weeks, and I had no idea over all the years that he'd never been here. So I said, "You gotta come to branding." He came. He helped me film some stuff. So Dad branded a couple of calves, and I was narrating, explaining the process, and doing what I could. And then after that, I said, because we've had that discussions, Braden and I have to learn how to brand because we're gonna take over that eventually. And I said, do you want me to just do it? And you're like, yeah, sure, sounds good. And at first I thought, okay, we're gonna kind of do like a tandem thing. Like I go 1 or 2 calves, then he'll do 1 or 2 calves. It turned into me branding all of them, and he was just kind of overseeing everything, which actually, retrospectively, is probably the better option anyway. But
Get a feel for it.
yeah, well, I mean, not only for me, but also you were able to manage people a little bit
Mhm.
better.
Yeah.
I saw you direct a few times when I
Yeah.
was focused on doing what I needed to do, which was keep irons hot
Mhm.
and brand the calves.
First time that I've ever been so disengaged
Yeah.
from the actual.
Me too. We had
Yeah.
so much help that I didn't have to
Which-
be there. To
yeah.
do
I
it.
I don't
we
even,
were-
I wouldn't use the word disengaged. I would use the
Just-
words hands off.
Off,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But engaged, you were
Oh yeah,
engaged.
yeah, that's true. I mean, the
I
one
agree.
thing I did manage early was all the vaccine.
Mhm.
When you have to constitute
Loading up
and
the-
loading because you
mixtures and stuff.
can if you do the wrong thing where you charge a bottle with a little bit of pressure, you can blow the bottom off or top off the bottle and lose all that vaccine.
Yeah.
It's expensive. And
Well,
then what do
plus
you
the
do?
fact you don't have it for
Then
the
you-
animals. that you
exactly.
need to vaccinate.
Yes.
Well,
So-
and to me, what was crazy is, again, we talked about this last night. First time for me branding in 5 or 6 years, but we were halfway. I was so busy focused on getting those brands good and solid and make sure my irons are hot and trying to manage that. And Dad's also helping me. Like I know how to brand, but he's giving me the small tips and tricks and
What
I
to
was
look for.
looking for landmarks on the animal because he's like, hey, evaluate afterwards. It's like, oh, okay, I didn't even think about that. It's almost like game,
Mhm.
game film.
Right.
Right,
Looking at it and I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. That one's a little far forward. Bring it back, and then he's giving me landmarks, figuring it out.
You're critical about how that brand looks later on
Oh
Mhm.
yeah,
because
I
you
mean
don't
that's
want
a
it
sense of
crooked.
pride.
It is.
Yeah.
You don't want it, blotched. You don't. There's. I mean, and
Right.
last year Braden did the majority of the branding, just like Calen did this year.
Yeah.
And it's funny because he goes, "Oh, I've always been annoyed at how you were just so
Anal
perfectionist about
yeah.
this putting a brand." And he goes, "Now I understand.
But why is it's your work of art?
It's your work of art.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your name goes, your name, your family name, and your business name goes
Yeah.
to that. So you better nail that
See,
thing.
Yeah.
and
We
when
had
I-
that discussion.
Yeah, and then when I saw how much the cow was moving and how hard that is, especially when you put the
Yeah, they're wiggling.
and they're wiggling, I didn't want to mess it up. I didn't want to take that chance and mess up that brand
Yeah.
because that's your business. It's,
Well,
I mean,
we-
I would have loved to, but I just didn't want to mess it up.
Well, and
So-
we talked about that over gumbo. I was like, yeah, I remember when I was little, and Dad goes, eventually you're gonna have to take this over, so you got to figure it out. And me being me, I'm like, I'm good with the shoot. Like I like knowing how to do the shoot.
The furthest away you can get from the
Yeah.
head catch. Right?
Yeah.
He's like, no. At some point you're gonna have to learn. So
Yeah.
he'd normally get me on the back, back end of the cows, and okay, we got 3 or 4 calves left. You're gonna brand 2 of them, okay. And that was how we did it. But same perspective, just a little bit different role. But yeah, I
Right.
completely understand
Yeah,
where you're
so
coming from.
that word was me because it's like now I probably would have been able to do. I think I would have been better, the little ones that we had to wrestle to the ground.
Yeah.
I think I would have been able to do that one
Yeah.
because they weren't
They don't
moving.
move as
Right.
much,
They don't
yeah.
move as much.
Right.
And I think I probably would have been able to do that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have been more comfortable trying it with
Yeah.
one of those.
But to go back though with the hands off part, I knew where you were because you're right there. You're giving me tips and we're talking back and forth regularly because he's coaching me as we go. Again, I've branded forever, but brand consistently every single animal for all day long. That's a different role for me.
Mhm.
We were halfway through the day and I realized you were in the kitchen the whole time.
About 2/3 of the time.
Yeah.
I was back and forth a while. I was out there for a while, then I was back and forth. And then I thought, everything's handled. I don't
Yeah.
have to.
I
We had
never
a lot
saw
of people.
I never
Mhm.
saw mom out there. And I think part of it's because I was focused on what I was doing, but also because you have kind of assumed a different role. You're like, hey, they got figured out.
Well, yeah, because I mean, normally I kind of keep track of that, all the cows
The
get
vaccines, yeah.
brands and everything. And Connie was doing part of that. And
Yes.
the
Connie did a
girls
good
were
job.
making sure that
Mhm.
they went where they needed to go. And
Well, they had a couple of people set up, so we had some redundancy there
Yeah.
too. So that,
Yeah.
so I wasn't
and you
worried.
gave them something to do
Right.
and kind of contribute, but it also helps just as a double verification that it's done.
No, so it was good. And I could do more in here.
Now,
Yeah. But it was fun. I mean, I enjoyed it. It was hard work. I enjoyed rolling them over and holding them down and it was, I got snagged a couple times from
Uh-oh.
he'll have some bruises.
Some war wounds,
Yeah.
yeah, from holding them in and they're kicking and
right?
so on the
And those little feet. Oh,
Yeah.
geez.
They're a lot stronger than you think
Oh,
they
yeah.
are.
Now there are things we've talked about this before, safety things. A lot of times people walking around with needles, you see that now. Those needles are a couple inches long. I've
Mhm.
got hot irons. You saw me a couple times like, oh, that's hot.
Yeah.
I was literally branding one-handed,
He needs new
shaking.
gloves, by the way. He's got gloves that have
I just
holes in them.
gotta grab the irons where they should be.
My
grabbed.
middle
Yeah.
finger is
Oh,
Well,
Lord.
and when you
not
say
mine.
the needle's 2 inches, it's only 5/8
It's
of an
5/8.
inch.
Oh,
I
okay.
thought
But
it
it
was
looks like it is.
retractable
No.
Mm-mm.
because it looked thick.
It is a big gauge,
It's-
yeah.
It's a large-
Okay.
it's 16 gauge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
thick needle.
Yeah. But what would you guys think of the movement of hot irons? Me moving a lot, obviously. I'm in a weird sense when it comes to branding. The guy that's got the brands is the main
Oh,
man
yeah.
of the
Mhm.
show.
Right.
Everybody else is the supporting cast. What'd you think about like me moving with brands, people moving with needles? What were you thinking about
I
that?
think it was good.
Hey,
It was choreographed pretty good. Well,
We
I
also
thought.
have to be responsible. We, the observers, have to be
Uh-huh.
responsible really for our own safety.
Yeah.
You've got a job to do. You've got to be responsible. One, that you're not going to burn yourself. Two, that the equipment is ready to go.
Mhm.
And obviously try and get it in as few tries
Mhm.
for the animal's sake, right?
Yeah.
So you've got that going on. I was standing by the heating element,
The
Yeah,
pot.
branding pot.
the pot,
Branding
yes. Because it started getting a little chilly and it was warm there. Frankly, that was why it
Yeah.
was there. But
And we had that conversation, right? Like,
yes,
in the nice cool spring, that's a great place to be. When it's in the middle of summer, you don't
That's
want to
not
be
fun.
there.
You don't wanna be there,
You
yeah,
are-
no.
Oh, that's a hot place to be.
no, but I had to take on that responsibility that I needed to stay out of your way.
Mhm.
Even though, yes, you're conscious of your surroundings, but you're not that focused on it because you've got these other things that you have to manage.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I've got to take some responsibility and stay out of your way. When Teal came out with the additional propane tanks,
Mm.
I saw that he's coming. I'm getting out of his way.
Yeah.
So we have to take responsibility. We're not children.
Right.
Yeah.
The ladies, they were very responsible the way that they were holding
The
the
needles.
the
and
needles.
everything, yeah.
Now there was the one lady, but I think it was the second calf. She's walking around like this. It's like, hey, just so you don't stick somebody, point that thing down. And
Yeah.
she's like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
And she was
yeah.
walking down.
Treat it
there.
like a gun.
Yeah.
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 But again, you see them. I was watching Marcia,
Yeah.
and Marcia's having a good
Marcia's
time
really
and all
good.
of that.
She is.
But I'm still
keeping an eye on.
keeping an eye on that I'm going to be safe. She was obviously handling it because she's done it before and being very safe about it, but we, the observers have to take responsibility
Yeah.
for
Now,
that.
And see, and one of the things I do a lot of times is I manage the irons to make
Mhm.
sure they stay
They stay
evenly
hot, yeah.
heated.
And I was doing that. Dad was teaching me, hey, make sure your
Yeah.
fire supply is staying hot.
Yeah.
Too. That was the other trick.
Because that's one thing, we've gone to other brandings, friends of ours and Mark, and I'll make sure his irons are always good and hot, because he'll grab one and then the calf might move on him. And so he's got to wait with it, and you got to keep it.
You're
good and
losing the
hot.
heat.
Yeah, you're losing heat.
Mhm.
So quick.
You guys saw that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
How long it took me some of those calves to try and get that brand the right way.
Yeah. You know, and
It's cool and humid today. This
Yeah.
morning.
Mhm.
And that sucks that heat right out of those irons before you even touch it to a hide.
but you, even like when we're working on the turntable and I was working that one gate, but then there was another gentleman that were on the other side trying to hold the calves in, and he got hurt, I like snagged like I did. And then, but nobody else went over there. It was just that one gal that was there. So I asked Mike if he'd take over the gate.
Oh yeah.
That's when I got him out, got him involved. And then I went to the other side.
Mm.
It filled the need where it was needed most.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's because I could see that's where we were struggling
Mhm.
to keep the calves,
Mhm.
to get branded. So I'm like, well, nobody else was stepping in. So I was like, I went and stepped in on that side.
Well, I distinctly remember I walked halfway over and nobody was pushing that calf down, and I couldn't hit the spot I needed to. And I walked back. I said, push them down. And because I had to get that iron back in the pot.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I
Yeah,
turned around and
heat.
grabbed the second iron because I ended up doing tandem with irons. I grabbed the second one, I turned around and come right back, and I stuck the
Two
calf.
sets of irons is a lot more
Mm.
efficient too, because you can
Yeah.
keep one
Yeah.
hot,
Yeah.
and
that's what I was trying
and
to do.
alternate.
Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't.
And if you've got quite a few calves to do, you really need two brands
Yeah.
or two sets of
Two
brands.
sets.
Yeah.
At
Now,
least.
Yeah, but it was great. It was a lot of work, but I enjoyed it.
Good.
I enjoyed it.
now
I'm tired as heck right now.
It's all that
Right.
fresh air.
That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Fresh air and hot food.
from the outside perspective though, looking at like me on the iron specifically, what were kind of your thoughts of that? Seeing, okay, this, we know what the brand is supposed to look like, seeing how it's applied, then also the other brands, because we provided two other brands. What were your thoughts on some of those applications?
I mean, it's just the way you're doing it, and I understand why you guys are doing that. So it's hard to answer that question.
Yeah.
I mean, you did a great job at it, and I mean, that one brand that you did was crazy.
That last one.
Yeah, but
I'm actually glad those guys waited till last. I told them, I said, hey, just let us know when that one comes through. They did me a favor and they held them till last, which
Right.
I really appreciated at the end.
well, that was so they sorted him, like kind of
They
just
sorted him
yeah,
out,
yeah,
Yeah.
just not
Okay.
pushing him up the
not
chute.
pushing him up
Yeah.
to shoot. Okay,
Well, and you took it very seriously, like you take
yeah.
everything very seriously. And
Is that my liquor?
even that you take seriously, but you were very, from my perspective, you were very conscientious about what you were doing, how it needed to be and how it needed to look, and the fact that you wanted to do it in as less shots, if you will,
Yeah.
as possible.
Because there were,
yet
there
get
were a
it
lot of times I
right.
had to reapply, and
Right.
that really upset me for a while
Yes.
because I was trying to figure that out. And Justin actually helped me. He's like, hey, dude, just start with the top and hold it for a while,
Yeah.
and then rock her down.
Right.
And it ended up working, but I'd go top, down, and then I'd push it all the way back up again to hit that T, and then I pull it, and typically it was working. But man, some of those irons are cold.
Yeah, that's and you got some calves that are, the hair's cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The hair's a little thicker,
Yeah.
Mhm.
because it's been a cool
It's
season.
been cool.
It's very cool. We have
Yeah.
not had the
Are not
warmth here.
shutting off
Yeah.
at all.
So
yeah.
all of that, anytime you lay a hot iron on something, the heat transfers, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so it'll transfer and you got to put it back in that iron. But one of the things that was impressive to me And it always impresses me is you have a group of people that may or may not know each other, met for the first time, and you give them jobs to do, and they work as a team, and they're watching out for each other.
Oh, yes.
And the first couple times it's a little clunky because we're not sure what to do, but you pretty soon you get a little bit of muscle memory, you know what to do, and people are watching and you're talking. You say, "Hey, did you get this done? Are we done? Are we done doing this? Do we get all the vaccinations?"
And that's
in?
where
Good.
Marcia comes in. She's the loudmouth. Lovingly, I say that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
She's the one that she's like, nope, don't let that calf go. I
Yeah.
haven't vaccinated yet, and she'll walk right over and make sure,
Right.
hey,
Yes.
pull that down for me, and she just sticks them. And
yeah,
she's
and,
the-
and she's
That's
very
good.
good at that. She's very efficient at it,
Yeah.
and she takes that seriously because she knows how important it is.
Yeah.
And so I said, "Hey, I need you to be kind of the head vaccinator here and just make sure that it's done right and everybody's, and showing some people who had never done it
And
before."
she's got good experience.
Yeah,
You know,
she's done that for us
good
for a while,
at
and she's done it for other
explaining.
people. Yeah.
And I loved the fact when the two ladies, and I forget her name, the other woman that was doing it,
Citrina?
Satrina, she's on one side and Marcia's on the other, and they would go at it. And they weren't even talking to each other about it, but it was the same time.
Yeah.
Boom, next.
But I think that's
Boom,
what we did on
next.
the turn cart, once we got them locked in,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you get that process going.
Justin opened the door on that side and the other one opened the door on that side and we're done. And then I opened up the other door to put my foot in to push him out. So
Yeah,
it worked.
it just worked.
And then when I asked Mike to go on that side, to
They
take
just
over,
filled right in.
and he felt right in, and he saw what I was doing with my foot, so he started doing the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah, no, and you learn quickly. Hey, that worked.
What's working, what's not.
And nobody is saying, "I'm not going to do that. That's stupid." Hey, it might work.
Yeah.
Want to try it? We're trying to get something done here, and I'm kept turning around. I'm looking at the sky
Yeah, so
because of smoke, because it rained early this morning.
Yeah,
And I
Yeah,
looked
we
out
had-
and we had
we
rain
had
on
rain.
the horses. We got these mares and foals back here and they were wet. And I'm like, oh God. So the first thing I do is I turn and I look to the west and I see it's kind of clearing. Okay, we do have a little window here.
yeah.
And so when I wanted to see what those cattle looked like when we were bringing them in,
They
and
looked
they
good.
look great. And I went, okay, these calves are dry. We're gonna be able to start right away. There's not gonna be that big of an issue. But I kept, every time there was a little bit of a delay, you're thinking, oh, come on, time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm looking, I'm like, okay, that weather's coming.
Well, and
Yeah.
that specifically delay. I'm the shoot man. I've always been the shoot man. I'm good at being the shoot man. There was one time I looked over at Dad and we had about a dozen calves left and we started feeling sprinkles. And I looked over and I had an iron in my hand about ready to pull it from the pot. I was like, do I need to get in that shoot? And he's like,
Mm.
nope, let him figure it out. And that's where the adjustment from being the worker to more towards the manager. He's
Mhm.
teaching me. He's like, nope, you have to hold yourself back and make them figure it out.
Yeah.
Like,
tough.
man, that's a hard one.
It sometimes
Yeah, the
is.
same thing as with kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Same
but
deal.
you could have been at the point where say, hey, you need to guys push those up for,
Yeah.
you guys got to push them up more.
And I did. I was giving him a hard time. I was like, hey, it'd be really nice if I had a calf right now to brand. And they started catching on. One was my best friend, so
You can get away with that a little bit. man.
Yeah.
No, the one thing I will say is even with all the irons and stuff and the experience I have had, and then like you said, the multiple people not knowing each other and you take input from everybody. Obviously, I'm taking mostly input from Dad for brands, but my uncle, I haven't seen him in multiple years, but I saw him for the first time today. And even him, he's like, hey, here's an idea for that iron. So I'm listening to everybody trying to take in. But then at the same time, him and I also agreed, we're like, man, we had a black bull jump the fence this last summer, and we're dealing with some black calves too.
Couple of 'em.
Two black, yeah. And
They like the redheads.
I tell you what though, putting that iron on that black calf, there's a difference.
There's
I
a
don't care who
difference.
says
Yeah.
it. Looking at that brand, it's a whole lot harder to see if I hit that brand
Right.
the right way on the blacks than it was the reds.
Harder
Because you
to
got to
see
look at
those
when they certify
points.
Black Angus cow, what's the very first thing, the criteria that has to be met?
Black hide.
That height has to be
Yeah.
black, and
Yeah.
it's on our reds, it's more of a
Pink.
pinkish
Right.
color, reddish color, flesh, where the blacks are black, and it's hard to see that you've got that applied correctly.
Mhm.
And then you comes in a little bit more of the feel, and you get a look for it. But when you're used to doing the reds, and it's easy to see that that's a whole different time because you're
Oh,
looking
yeah.
at that,
I
putting
never
that brand
thought
in your,
about
ooh,
that being a problem, but yeah.
Mhm.
it would
Well,
be.
I mean,
Sure.
we've never had to do it,
Right.
and suddenly I'm looking at this reds
Yeah.
all day, and then
have a
suddenly a
black.
black. I'm like, oh, this is a little harder.
Yeah, I think I counted 7 black.
That sounds
Yeah,
about right.
seven,
Yeah.
7 or 8, I think.
I
Yeah.
think it was 7.
I'll have to
but-
bill him for that.
Be careful, he might bill you.
He might bill us
for
for
fees.
services, yeah.
But now, for us being first timers, how did we do?
You did
Yeah,
great.
you did good. I
You
think-
guys,
Like you've
you
done it
guys always
before.
listen and you just do.
Yeah,
you
you guys
know.
are good. The
Yeah.
hardest
And you
and
didn't
most
swear
stressful.
like I did. So you
Yeah.
really don't.
The hardest,
Obviously, I'm a problem.
Yeah.
the hardest and
Yes.
most stressful part was the sorting, and it
Yes.
comes from you're not used to moving the cows and using your body language. And there was a
Well,
couple times
But then
I
there's,
thought you were about to do something and you were going to help me out, and you just backed away. I was like, okay,
well, and there
It's
were
like,
a
it's all
couple
right.
times
It's all
that
right. He doesn't know better.
Greg had some calves
Yeah.
and it was perfect. And then I messed it up because I was trying to get a cow in the gate, and those darn little buggers would go the other way and they'd go squirting everywhere. And he had this nice little bunch of calves we could
Yeah.
have put into that
Yeah.
pen. And it's
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry, Greg.
No,
It's like
yeah.
I gotta go around again and go
But-
get them.
But the other
Worst branding ever.
Worst branding ever.
the other thing too is that the one lesson learned too from that is that Mom, multiple times I had 3 or 4 cows that I could have pushed through the chute and we would have been aces. It would have been perfect. But neither of us could confirm that all their tags were the right tags. And so we ditched the whole thing. And you'd rather
so
do
frustrating.
that than to start all over. So
Right.
it's frustrating, and she cussed and I cussed and I got all
And I
pissy,
hate being the gate person because of all that.
but it worked out.
Every
Okay.
time when I give you a different job, oh,
I
I don't want
hate
to do
it.
that job. I hate that job.
I hate it.
I don't want to make a mistake.
I even go
I
to
don't-
the spa.
I don't want to screw you out of the spot.
You have to find your niche.
Sliced cucumbers on the eyes. That
I
is
do
right,
have a
right?
niche. It's swearing at the cows.
I'll tell you what, because Mom's so logical and so step by step, she's great with tracking vaccines, where numbers go and who they belong to. That Mom, if she's behind the chute and she's just sitting there with a pen and paper, I know we're set for administrative stuff like every time.
She does a good job though, actually working these cattle.
But
And she
but
does
if we're talking about a niche for Mom,
Oh.
it's that. Yeah.
It's just that I jump up and down and I swear at them.
Well, and
because
part
they
of-
don't do exactly what I
I
want them to
mean,
do.
looking
Well-
retrospectively, it is entertaining.
I'm sure. I
Not
know.
at the time
But
by
you
any
get-
means, but it's
Oh, no.
But
I
I-
am quite entertaining. I know that.
I see the perspective though, that because if you make a mistake, you think I'm gonna yell at you. And there's that stress there in the
I'm getting
background.
less and less to where I care about that.
The longer we've been married.
There you go.
No, but
What's-
you're right.
What's your
There you
t-shirt say
go.
that I got you for Christmas?
So I got a t-shirt from him and it said, I love you, but I don't have to like you on the days we work cattle.
Yeah.
something
There you
like
go.
that.
and you see why now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's and you want to not mess up and you want to be everything
Well, you want
right.
everything to be right, and
And
you
it
don't want to
doesn't
make
always happen.
extra work for
Right,
somebody
Yeah.
down
Exactly, right.
the alley. And like for Greg, he'd have this nice little group, and it's like, oh, I totally screwed
Yeah.
that up.
And same
Because
thing. I
you're
mean, I'm using a
trying to keep
horse. I'm trying to
cows and-
maximize. I'm the equivalent of 3 people essentially
Mhm.
using the horse's
Yeah,
body.
yeah.
And when I can't cut a cow like I should, I'm looking at myself like I should have been able to do that.
No
And then I
wonder-
hear Dad too. I'm trying to like stay back because you're pushing cows up the chute, and I see okay, it's coming. She'll shut the gate behind it. And Dad's like, push. I'm like, not yet, not yet. And then I'll sit and wait. I'm trying to also figure out what numbers they are so I can
Yeah.
know which one to go
Right.
for. And
you're
I
more
hear in the back,
methodical.
push. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm gonna move. What were you gonna say?
Oh, you're methodical. But see,
Yes, I
um,
remember
we've used the horse in the alleyway the last
a couple of years.
few years.
Just
And-
I like it better.
I
It's-
do too, but
it's I would always rather work cattle on
in the
horseback.
past, it was me running up and down, pushing the cows to where you guys were at the gate.
Oh,
And then I'd
wow.
have to go back to the gate and open it.
Talk
and
about
I'd
your
go
steps for the
push.
day.
No kidding.
Yeah, that'd be fun to know how many steps when
Yeah.
you do that. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, so then I would be totally worn out by the end of the day. Today wasn't as bad.
Now, just because you're sitting here, I don't want you to,
Yes, you're
Think,
mean to
um,
me when we were cattle.
I'm always mean to you, but you got it coming. So You got a mean streak in you. That's why.
This is how we get
Anyways,
canceled. This is
when-
how we get canceled. This is
So did you think when we first started to push the calves by themselves after they sorted and they're going through the chute, we caught them in a head catch, squeeze them down, and then put the brand on them, the vaccine. Did you think that was, what did you expect ahead of time? Did you think, because you saw us, we helped put the chute together and put the calf table up. What did you think was going to happen with that contraption? Did you think that was going to be super assaultive or base or
No,
tough on the calves?
no, and
It's traumatizing
not
for 'em.
not
Little
because
bit,
of
it
the
is, sure.
contraption. Because if you're just looking at the contraption itself, that equipment, you're going, yikes. But because I know you and I know the operation that you're running here and what you care about, I knew it wasn't even a thought that those cattle would be in any kind of physical distress
That's good.
at all.
Yeah.
The thought didn't even cross my mind.
Yeah.
But it is stressful on them. Like you
Oh,
can't,
yeah,
you can't
no, of
deny
course.
that. But
You
yeah.
can't-
Of course.
you
But
can't
no,
see anything
but
but,
was
yeah.
it less than you had thought it would, or did you have no really preconceived idea?
Again, because I
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
what you're raising and how, I mean, if you take care of what you're feeding them and that's and how you take care of them, well, of course you're going to take care of that. So that never even crossed my mind. The few things that I have seen, for instance, on TV documentaries and things like that, and as quickly and almost mechanically as they do it, that I believe that they are getting more not injured, but suffering more trauma. Yeah, you're pushing them through and you guys are branding them, but it's not, you're very well aware of that animal at all
Mhm.
times.
Yeah.
And the few times that a leg came out, I mean, it was instant. Wait, let's redo this, because the animal wanted to get out. Those types of things.
I remember a specific spot. You and I held back for a second and nobody moved, and we literally in stride walked at the exact same pace right to that calf's head.
Oh.
And we grabbed, and you happened to touch first, so I backed off. I just thought it was interesting because it's the same thing. Like, we waited, okay, it's okay, okay, now we got to move, and
Right.
we actioned.
Well, it's
Yeah.
and it's the animal welfare first, because
Yes.
they are in your care.
And you had that gentleman, and I forgot his name. He was, I called him the cow whisperer at the time, but pardon me, as all of this was going on, he's stroking them and he's
Yeah,
comforting
yeah.
them,
That was Brad.
Brad.
Playing with them,
which
yeah.
really, it made a difference.
Mhm.
Because for the few times that he had to go do something else for he missed maybe one or two cows, those cows were not as
Relaxed.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, they
But
do
as
like that,
soon
yeah.
as he came and he's doing this, and I mean, and he saw it, they changed.
No, you're right. I was watching
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
He's really a good guy, and you could tell when somebody's doing stroking a calf that's not his.
Right.
Could care less about it really if he, didn't have to. But he's there and he's stroking it and kind of distracting it a little bit,
Yes.
and
Yes, and
yeah.
almost comforting it.
yeah, it
So
almost looked like that.
that should
yeah.
be one of the jobs next year, the stroker.
The
Is it
stroker.
gonna be you? Is that gonna be you?
I could do it. I could do it. I could do it. I didn't, I was offered the vaccine job.
I offered the branding job.
No,
Yeah.
no can
Never
do.
about that.
No, because I didn't want to mess it up. And the vaccine job, I couldn't even watch my children get vaccinated. Greg would have to take them. Can't do
Really?
it.
Huh.
Can't do it.
No,
Can't do it.
I do have two specific things to ask. The first is, and this I actually didn't enjoy as much as I did do it, me jumping up on the table on my knees. Did you see that? Crawling up there. What'd you think of that?
On the
'Cause,
table.
yeah, normally you stand there and you try and you brand.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't
Oh,
get an
yes.
angle, so I'd jump up
That's
on my
right.
knees and I was doing it. What'd you think of that? Because to me, I was a little upset about because I couldn't get an ankle, and that's not the right way to do it because you're causing more stress to the animal. You're adding weight onto the squeeze chute, like it's not needed.
But I thought it's locked in that position. You don't,
Yeah.
you won't add any
You're
more.
not gonna, you're just closer proximity is all. You're not
Yeah.
really.
I mean, you
adding
weren't really,
weight.
because you were actually kneeling on the doors that were
Mhm.
open, so you weren't really leaning on
yeah.
the squeeze chute.
Yeah.
Part of the thing too, that it was, you had to have either, and you got monkey arms like I do,
I do. Yeah.
you know, you can reach, but when you reach, your hands go further down that iron, which is
Yep,
hot.
yep.
And that's what you were trying
I
to
was doing
avoid. I
this
knew
like-
what you're trying to avoid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah, no, so-
you improvise.
yeah, so I didn't see anything wrong with that. I just thought it was
Mm-mm.
normal because you just couldn't reach the angle, you
It's
know.
part of the process.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
And
just
again,
thought-
you wanted to get it right.
Yeah.
You know,
I
with
mean, you had
as
to,
few
you did
tries
what
as
you needed to
possible.
do to do your job.
Yeah.
See, and part of that is, I was telling him where I want that brand placed. I don't want them on the side of the cow. You need them up on the rib a little bit, and there's a reason
Where there's
that.
the apex. If you look at it from the rear end or the front end, there's the apex of the hip
Mhm.
or the rib. Sorry, just above that. So if you are on horseback, you can look down and
Down.
still see it.
You
Yeah.
can see the brand instead of having to try
Right.
to work away. And especially for folks later on down the food chain, literally where they're working them in a feedlot, and they're trying to read these brands and try to identify them, they can see them,
Mhm.
and it's just a better identification. Plus, that's where the brand is supposed to go, and
There you
for
go.
that reason, you know, and then
Yeah.
people, they get moved around a little bit. Some are a little forward, some are a little low.
Yeah.
I mean, it just happens because of size differences of the animals in the
Mhm.
calf table.
Mhm.
You
Right.
can be much more consistent if you're wrestling.
And that's where some of the coaching came in too. I was like, he said, hey, evaluate your brands after. So I started doing that. And I was like, ooh, that looks really far forward. And he goes, oh yeah, take, from the shoulder to the navel and try and hit in the middle. Because I was going more and more and more towards the shoulder, and I kept drifting. And he goes, try and look for that navel and hit that middle part. I'm like, okay. And that ended up working out just fine. But
Yeah.
the other question was the majority of this was done through the chute, where we're putting them through the crowd tub, working through the chute, then they come to the calf table, and then they get flipped and everything gets taken care of.
Mhm.
There are a couple little ones that we let go through, and then we wrestled them more of the traditional way.
Right.
What'd you guys think of that one?
It was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why so? Like, what
I mean,
was-
'cause it's the way you would, you see people interacting with the animal, and to me, it seemed like it was less stressful for the
Yeah.
animal
Mhm.
than, the clanking of the
The
turntable.
clank, yeah, that's right. You've got a lot of noise going on this way,
yeah.
and this wrestling them like
Well,
that.
and
was-
animals are normally a little bit claustrophobic anyway, and you're asking them to go down through a tunnel,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So it's
And
a
then
little
when
bit-
your uncle would open up the chute, it would scare them, and that's what was making them go backwards.
yeah.
That loud noise to open them up to release them, it spooked them. Plus, they saw another person up there.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think when you guys wrestled them down to the ground, he was the animals less stressed.
Yeah.
And that is the preferred way.
It is.
You just don't always get enough people that you can wrestle.
Well, and like today, we,
Could've.
it'll be made into a 20-minute clip or so, but I talked about we had the crew to support wrestling, but not the experience.
Yeah.
So there's probably 3 or
Right.
4 people that could wrestle and,
Yep.
and do just fine, me
Yeah, you
being
could've probably
included.
gotten two
sets of wrestlers.
wrestlers.
Yeah, but man, you get worn out so fast, and
Yeah.
you got to have a couple sets because hey, let me get a drink of water. That's really what it is.
It's hard work.
Hey, you
Yeah.
take 2 calves, and then okay, now I'll jump back in. You go every
Yeah.
other calf,
Right.
You saw how tough it was, how much strength that little calf had when you
Oh, yeah.
wrestled it. Now think of doing that with the larger ones.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
And there's times when I've been holding on. I was like, man, I hope I can hang on,
Mhm.
because they are big
Yeah,
and
they're
strong.
strong.
Well, because the worst part too is you're the head man. If you're the guy on the back end, you let go of that foot and it comes up and it hits that head man square in his face.
Right here.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's where the tooth
Oh.
goes through the lip.
Yeah.
mm,
Ask me how I know
Ask
that.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Now,
I was usually the rear and my foot had to go over the bum because otherwise they poop all over you.
They could, they can, yeah.
going back real quick, sorting. We had you on foot, working with mom on foot and Connie on foot. you were kind of
I was a
the
bad
supporting
influence.
cast with Dad.
Yeah.
I heard you guys talking a lot. Clearly not doing anything. Anyway,
Clearly.
Clearly.
I'm on horseback. What did you think about the use of a horse in the process of not only also gathering, but mostly sorting? What did you think about that?
It's impressive
It-
to me.
Yeah,
That's
and I
impressive.
think it's also essential.
Makes it a whole lot easier.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And quieter,
Yeah.
really.
Mhm.
Even with Mike swearing. I only swore 3 times, maybe twice.
Okay,
3
exponentially.
words the same over and over and over.
Huge.
I wish I would have gotten a picture of you with a paddle up in the air and you lost it.
Oh,
It
gosh,
was
it's like-
hysterical. And yeah.
it's
But
like
it
an
was,
Oompa
it was
Loompa
just a
losing its
second.
shit.
It was just,
Oh, thanks.
An Oompa Loompa.
it was like, oh, sorry.
Hey,
I-
oh,
No.
you're
It
okay.
was
all right.
like you were trying to reason with them.
Okay, there we go.
It was
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, it was like
I
you're-
was trying to reason with them and they don't listen.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they weren't your students or
They
your
were not.
children.
Right.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that was
But
funny.
yeah, the horse, I think is essential. And again, never have done this before, but it was it was efficient. And it gives you a perspective from being on top of the horse that you could see above,
Oh yeah.
you know, which you don't have that when you're,
Right.
And you got the size of the horse to help
Yes.
Yeah.
move.
And that's the
Yeah.
thing is,
person.
if you notice, I didn't have to necessarily move my horse physically. I just had to move her head and neck, and sometimes that's all it took to get the cows to cut.
right.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah,
was able to do that.
yeah. It seemed a lot less work for you on the horse than
Yeah.
it was for me walking around.
Right, that's
Pushing
right.
those
Listen,
around the
dude,
pit.
I'm doing 10 steps. You're 1.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's about right.
Now, okay, going all the way through the process and then finally coming out on, you probably heard us joking around every once in a while and people kind of loosening up while we're doing it. There's a lot of seriousness to it. We've talked about that. There's obviously the stress with the sorting and everything. That was probably the most serious of all day. And then we get to the shoot and the calf table. People are serious, they're doing their job, but there's also some joking. Dad likes to rib certain people, specifically Marsha, and everybody likes to jump in and bug Marsha because she deserves it. And so
And she
What-
gives it back.
Oh,
Yeah.
she gives it back in spades.
what's your thoughts on with the seriousness of the job with also tandem of the comedy and kind of the good humor with everybody's
I
in
think it makes the day go by quicker,
yeah.
and it makes the activity more pleasant.
And it also helps to create that cohesion
Mm.
Mhm.
within your team.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
and everybody knew, everybody knew that this is serious work.
Right.
But within those parameters, you're also getting to know other people
Right.
that.
And have some fun.
Mhm.
I see, because I think
Mhm.
like probably maybe a third of the way through the first third, there was 4 of us on that capping table, and then the one gentleman left. And then, I asked Mike to come and help. And then I think we were the only 4 that were on the capping table the rest of the way.
Mhm.
And we worked, everybody knew what we needed to do, and we just did it, and it was.
Your
like
brother was
clockwork.
fantastic.
With
On
the
that,
head catch.
yes.
Yeah, he
knew
didn't miss
what-
very many.
No,
There was a couple of times where I
I
thought he was
saw
gonna
one that
miss.
he missed, but he caught him as he went
Yeah.
through.
Yeah. I thought he was gonna miss a couple, so I started sneaking forward just in case I needed to jump and hit the lever. But he had every
Yeah.
single one. of them.
Yeah.
he got
That's
it.
that too is another
It's-
job that is an important one
Yeah.
because it can completely throw everything off
Yeah.
and have
Oh.
to stop and shut everything
Yeah.
down, catch that calf, wrestle it.
Yeah.
It's an important job. And then it's also important to not try to hit them in the face and then they back up and don't want to go
Yes.
out.
Mhm.
And he
that
did
happens
that.
too.
I
It
saw him
happens-
do it once.
Yeah, it happens a couple times. I mean,
but-
it always happens.
Yeah.
It just
But
does.
he got it just about every time.
I wouldn't want that job.
No, no,
Not-
that
Yeah,
took some
that
strength.
looked pretty tough.
It's
the-
timing, coordination.
Timing,
yeah.
yes,
It's like hitting a baseball at 90
Yeah,
miles
it
an
is.
hour. You
Yeah.
better be ready.
yep.
Yeah,
One
no,
of-
he did good.
One of the things I'm glad that we don't have is an HR department because the jokes that we
Oh.
have are just
Inappropriate. Yeah.
totally inappropriate, but they're fun.
I mean, if
Yeah,
Bert
no.
would have a little bit of
Oh,
integrity.
God, I know it. She just was harassing people.
Yeah.
No, anyway,
Oh,
It was, no, it was fun. It was fun. And then, you know, after everything was done and everybody cleaned up,
yep.
and then, you know, we went out for gumbo and drinks and
That's what I was going to ask you next is the after party, so to speak. Now, you notice, and we made it very clear, no booze when
Yeah.
you're working.
Right.
Once we're done,
Yeah.
you can have a beer, whatever you want. But what'd you think after that? You know, everybody, I noticed I was helping with the last iron brand, which, man, that was horrendous. 3 irons,
yeah.
took out the whole hip, and once we were done, we closed it down, and I went to help push calves, take a quick video, and the next thing I know, I come back and everything's gone. Everybody picked
Yeah,
up
everybody
stuff.
picked up and came.
I was like,
to
man, I
us.
should do this more often, 'cause, man, I'm the guy that's helping pick stuff up. But after that, everybody went straight to the house. They started getting some. Actually, they didn't get food. I had to be the
We
guy that was
gave-
like, oh, I'm gonna eat, and finally people started picking
We
stuff up.
gave him, had to wait a few minutes, make sure everything was done.
Yeah, but what'd you think of that? Like getting to eat, drink.
Well, and
Uh,
again, the teamwork was there.
Yeah.
We came into the house, we brought in tables,
Yeah.
chairs, got that ready for when that was
The herd
done. And
came.
everybody, yeah, and then everybody came in, did
And you
their
were
thing.
helping mom
Mhm.
and Temple, right?
Mhm.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
So there's 3 of you.
just going, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
An
Yeah,
important
that was
job
the
because
thing.
you've got to feed people.
Yeah.
You want to feed them well, you know.
Mhm.
Well, and we've talked about that before. It's weird because the gender roles of agriculture, oftentimes the women aren't strong enough to be able to do a lot of the stuff. So
Should I just say that
No,
in the gender roles,
no.
your dad made it. We just warmed it up.
listen, I just work here, so
But
We all were making that gumbo last
Actually,
night.
you guys were very
So,
good.
I was doing
Is it
school stuff.
sous chef who does all
Sous
the
chef.
stuff?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
but I mean,
Yes,
it really, you know, I know you're kind of watching and stuff, and then you came and talked to me like, hey, do you think your mom might need help? I'm like, yeah, sure, she probably will. But the fact that the 3 of you are prepping food,
Mhm.
man, everybody thinks, oh, that's women's
Yeah,
work,
that's
and
an
it's like
important part.
it's beneath us. But
Mhm.
it's some of the most important stuff, because when you got a crew that's thirsty and hungry,
And you
man,
know,
that's
the,
one of the
the
best
good
things that can
thing
happen.
is anybody we've ever had come help, doesn't matter. They just ask, what do you need?
Yeah.
Right.
No,
It
and
does,
that's-
you know, it
yeah.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's in a poop pile or the kitchen, you know,
Right.
they are just, what do
Right.
you need?
Yeah,
So
and some of them
that's-
have driven 3 hours to get here.
Yeah,
You know, so they're leaving early in the morning. They're not getting a full breakfast,
right.
Yeah.
and they're wanting to show up
And
and help.
here
And
for
then,
a couple hours.
yeah, and then
A lot of it's just to the whole
it's camaraderie. you know,
camaraderie
yeah.
and just a party in a sense, because it's once a year and everybody gets a chance to see
Well,
one another.
And what was really nice is after we all ate, even though it was raining lightly, misting, we're standing outside in the rain.
Most of us were-
Everybody
Oh, it felt so
appreciates that
nice.
rain
Yeah.
so much. We're just
Mhm.
standing out in it
Mhm.
and talking.
Felt good.
Bert was
Yeah.
sleepy.
That's right.
Oh,
Bert was
that's right,
sleeping.
Bert was sleeping.
Did you know it rained today?
No, I got some drops when we were out there, but that's all I know.
Sprinkled a little.
I-
just in case they were wet.
Thanks. But yeah, the setting up of the food and those gender roles, for me, they're just not applicable. You
That's
jump
right.
in with
Do it
what,
needs to be
what-
done.
yeah,
Yeah.
and if you can do it. At one point and again, I remember last year helping. I thought I was going to help you move some of the fence or
Panels?
the
Yeah.
gate
Oh, yeah,
panels.
and they're a little too heavy.
Holy moly, those suckers are heavy. And I thought that they were just aluminum,
Right.
hollow aluminum. I mean, it's the first
Yeah.
time I was up here. And you're picking them up like this. And I'm like, well, this can't be that heavy. Holy cow.
That's my strong little Scandinavian girl.
Yeah, yeah. So I tried doing it this year. I thought, well, I'm in better shape than I was then, because I work out, I go to Pilates, let's do this. Oh no, I got one in with Greg and I go, nope, not happening. So let's see what else I can help with. It wasn't that, oh my God, I'm a girl and I can't do this. No, I can't pick this up.
Right.
Charlie
Find
horse.
me
But-
something else.
but-
Somebody
but
needs
I'll find
hydration
something
over here.
else.
There are no gender roles in
No, you don't.
agriculture.
No.
There really aren't.
No,
Good.
Everybody has to do everything.
yeah,
But I mean, it's the same thing though.
and it's fine.
You know, if I were to have shoulder surgery and I can't do anything, guess what's gonna happen? I'm probably not gonna help dad all that much. I might be in the tractor,
Yeah.
and I might be like, okay, Braden can run the tractor. I'll go help mom do stuff because a lot of the stuff we do, shoulder and arm workouts. So
Yeah.
there's no way I could help out, and
Yeah.
I would simply have to find a new role of helping.
Well, you
out
just
while I could.
adjust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, if I wasn't out there with the cows helping on the calving table, I would have been in the house helping with the food.
Sure.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and there's no, there are no defined roles. You just do what you
Mm-mm.
need to do.
Yeah,
Right.
no, it's just where we were needed. I mean, we're a guest and we just wanted to help and just be part of whatever
We're
we can
glad you were
contribute
here
to.
to
Yeah. Well, and
do this.
it's
Yeah.
funny, like we
And
mentioned
poor
last
Greg,
night.
you know, I should mention this morning, he got bounced around on the tailgate of the side by side because
You were driving.
Gary was driving.
That's,
And every once in a while, the foot would get a little heavy and I'm thinking,
Yeah.
oops. he's gonna
Cause
bounce."
there was one time and it's like, ugh.
well, I wondered, because I was, we're in the back of the horses and I'm thinking, she's not moving as fast as she
Yeah,
normally
and,
does.
and you
That's
and I
kinda
looked at each
surprising.
other, go, she needs to move, and we both said at the same time, faster, and we just split. The horses went the opposite way.
And
and
it's
started
just
pushing.
creeping along, and now it makes sense why you're trying to keep from killing Greg.
I was trying to keep
Yes.
from killing
Yeah,
him.
that's always a plus.
That is a plus.
Fatalities, we want to limit them.
Well, you know,
Yes.
we want him to come back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was we talked about the number of people and new people that hadn't been around, and it was fun to see that everything worked out. People
Yeah.
got to do some things they'd never done
There was a
before.
lot less people than we expected, which I was actually very happy
Yeah, some
about.
people, I mean, life happens, and
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
folks couldn't come, and that's okay. But it was
And we
it
got a
was a lot of
couple
fun.
that we hadn't expected.
Yeah,
so
we
that
did.
was fun.
That's right, we did.
Yeah.
So it was good to. That's kind of a surprise to meet some people. Man, they jump right in and are willing to help. So that's good.
If you were to do branding again, would you come back next year?
Oh, yeah, in a heartbeat. Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. You got some hired help. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There you go.
well,
Oh, yeah,
Just
we're
well,
wait
you know how that
great.
hired help works.
Oh.
Thanks for watching, and we thank you till you're better paid.